What's up, everybody? BigSweetC here with you. Got a special little video for you. Today, I wanted to go back and revisit a video we had done previously. We're talking the NFL playoffs specifically. If you don't remember, I tried to foresee what was going to happen in the regular season and how the playoffs were going to play out. And I kind of wanted to revisit it a little bit because, well, I did pretty good. I'm not going to lie. In the AFC, I got 4 of the 7 correct, and in the NFC, I got 5 of the 7. I almost got all of the top 4 seeds in the NFC, and, well, I just thought I would go back and revisit it and see how we're doing. Now, before we get into who did make it, I do want to say this, and this is actually probably the best news. One of the best news? As crazy as this is going to sound. Some of the best news that I actually had, and that was my dearly beloved Detroit Lions. I had said that they were probably going to be the worst team in football, and while I was really, really close, they were not. They barely squeaked by. They were the number 2 worst team in the NFL this year. They had 3 wins, 13 losses, 1 tie. And it was that one tie that helped them get over the top. They beat the Jacksonville Jaguars by half a game. And, well, that's a big win for me. In my case, you never want to see your team come in last. And, well, they didn't. So, very, very happy about that. But let's get into the more important things here. We're going to start with the AFC. Now, a little recap. I had thought that Kansas City was going to be the 1 seed. Buffalo would have been the 2. Indianapolis would have been... Baltimore was going to be the 3. And then Indianapolis was going to be the 4. With the Steelers and the Cleveland Browns and the and the Tennessee Titans picking up the 3 wildcard spots. We were pretty close. I did say Tennessee could possibly win the AFC South. They did. But not only did they win the AFC South, they were also the number 1 seed. I had originally picked them to make the playoffs. I had picked Indianapolis to win the division, and had they won their last game, they would have at least made it into the playoffs, but alas, the Indianapolis Colts were a pretty decent disappointment this year, not going to lie. A lot of people picked them to win the division, and they didn't even qualify for the playoffs. So I would say that it was probably a pretty disappointing season for the Indianapolis Colts. In my case, not super disappointed. I did think they were going to win the division. I did think they were going to be the 4 seed, though. In the end, the AFC South ended up being one of the tougher divisions, and the Tennessee Titans end up taking home the number 1 seed in that first round bye. Now, this is big for Tennessee because it gives them an extra week off to get Derrick Henry, King Henry, back. If they do, and he can be that ground and pound game, they can easily win 2 games to make it to the Super Bowl. Then they only got to win the Super Bowl. They could very easily win this, win the whole thing with Derrick Henry back and the way that they're playing. Everybody expected that as soon as Henry went down, that their season was over. And they did struggle to kind of recreate that production from him, but they're getting healthy at the right time. They're playing well at the right time, and they get that extra bye to get their main man back. The Titans are going to be a tough out, especially in Tennessee, when the weather could be anything in January. I mean, we saw there was like a foot of snow in the southeast, mid-east coast of the United States. So who's to say what the weather is going to be like in Tennessee? And if Derrick Henry comes back and he can be 85-90% of what Derrick Henry can be, they're going to be a tough out. The Chiefs, who I predicted to have the number 1 seed, they actually finish at 2. Buffalo is who I projected to be number 1. Kansas City number 2. They're actually the number 1. Buffalo I projected to be number 1. They're actually going to be the 3 seed. I thought that they were going to win the AFC East. They did win the AFC East. But it was a lot closer than I thought. The Mac Jones era in New England looks like it's going to be a legitimate Mac Jones era in New England. They did very well. They had 10 wins, I think, 9 or 10 wins. They also made the playoffs. We'll get to that in a second. But Buffalo did not look as sharp as I thought they were going to look. They are playing much, much better now than they were kind of in that mid-season stretch. If they can avoid the COVID bug, and, well, it hasn't been very kind to them this season. If they can avoid the COVID bug, I still think they have a legitimate shot of going all the way. The biggest surprise, in my opinion, was actually the AFC North. Now, I did say this is arguably one of the toughest, definitely one of the toughest divisions in football, but the one team that I did not expect to do anything this year. I actually thought there were going to be 3 teams from the AFC North in the playoffs. Only 2 actually made it. I was correct on the Steelers. I thought they were going to be the 6th seed. They ended up being the 7, so I was pretty close on that. But the Bengals kind of came out of nowhere, in my opinion, because they've got so much young talent on the team. Joe Burrow looks like he's going to be legit. He's been lights out the last half of the season. Joe Mixon is back into what we thought was going to be MVP form when he first entered the league. And, I mean, Jamar Chase and that receiving core, Jamar Chase specifically, if he can beat Jamar Chase on a regular basis, the Bengals will be another tough out. Especially if you have to go into Cincinnati. Another situation like Tennessee where you don't really know what the weather is going to be like. In truth, pretty much anybody in the AFC outside of the Las Vegas Raiders, you kind of have a hit and miss on if you have to go into that weather. Tennessee, Kansas City, Buffalo, New England, Pittsburgh, they are all outdoor teams, all in possibly cold weather. So this will be the AFC, I think, is probably the one that's most up for grabs. And I think the AFC is going to be the more fun conference to watch. In order, Tennessee finished at 1, Chiefs, Bills, Bengals. The Las Vegas Raiders, another team that I would have never thought had a chance at the playoffs. And they were right there, the last game of the season, even with all the drama with Jay Gruden. The Raiders somehow managed to sneak that win out against their rival, the Los Angeles Chargers, and put themselves in the 5 seed. Now, that is phenomenal if you're a Raiders fan. And totally caught me by surprise. So congratulations to the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cincinnati Bengals specifically. You guys, I didn't think had a chance in the world, and you did more than surprise me. You guys probably had 2 of the most surprising, for a lack of a better term, seasons, in my opinion, in the league. In the case of who I think is going to win the AFC, you know, I said this before, I think experience is kind of going to be key. Tennessee's got some experience now. They've lost a couple of times. The Bills have experience. The Bengals, the Raiders, the Patriots do not. The Steelers, Patriots, okay, let me rephrase. The Patriots as an organization have ample experience, more than probably any team in the playoffs. But Mac Jones does not. He is a rookie. He was not expected to be as good as he was, in my opinion. Otherwise, Zach Wilson doesn't get picked at 2 or 3 or whatever he was. Trey Lance doesn't get picked ahead of him. We got another Tom Brady situation in New England, and I think it's more so Bill Belichick knows how to put his team members in positions to win. Their defense is also lights out defense. Their defense is phenomenal, and that's not to be surprised. Again, Bill Belichick specializes in defense. That's how he earned his living when he was an assistant coach, and that's how he got the job as the Patriots head coach, is through his defensive mindness. Anyway, So no surprise that the Patriots were able to make it in, even though it is kind of a surprise to me that Mac Jones was able to carry that team into the playoffs. You would expect a young quarterback to make more mistakes than he did, and he was very, very careful with the ball. Now, having said that, again, the genius of Bill Belichick, there were a couple of games where Mac Jones threw the ball less than 10 times. You know? It's just not something you see in the NFL anymore, and it's hard to believe that, one, it worked, and two, that they were able to put together 9-10 wins with that kind of style of football in today's age. So my hat's off to the Patriots. That was another slight surprise. Not as big as, say, Cincinnati or Las Vegas, because they have new head coaches. Whereas Bill Belichick has been in the playoffs more than any coach in my lifetime. So it, a little surprise, not a huge surprise. For the NFC, I got 5 of the 7 correct. I was actually a lot more accurate in the NFC than I was in the AFC, and I think that's probably because the NFC is a little top heavy. You have a couple of big hitters, and then you got a bunch of bottom feeders in the NFC. So from the get-go, said the Packers were going to be the number 1 seed. They were. I said the Buccaneers were going to be the number 2 seed. They were. Now, I did say the Los Angeles Rams were going to be the 3. They ended up being the 4. But I did say they were going to win the NFC West, arguably the toughest division in football, if not the AFC North. They did win the NFC West. Finally, the NFC East was the one that I was wrong on. I did say the Cowboys were going to make it in as the 7 seed, but I thought the Washington football team was pretty close to the same team they had win the division last year. I just didn't realize how lucky they probably were last year, even though they showed very, very much promise in that playoff game against the Buccaneers. The Cowboys on the reverse side, I don't know why, but I didn't think Dak Prescott was going to be nearly as good as he was, simply for the fact that his injury was a terrible injury, and he's kind of been known as more of a hybrid, more of like the Lamar Jackson style where he uses his legs, but he clearly didn't need it. They've got 2 outstanding running backs. Ezekiel Elliott kind of looks like he's fallen off in terms of like stats, but he and Pollard are like a 50-50 timeshare now, and if you got 2 guys that can run the rock, that's going to be tough to stop. Not to mention, Dak Prescott's got Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb on the outside, even though neither receiver had the season that you kind of thought they would. But they've found this Dalton Schultz at the tight end position, and he's got like 5 touchdowns, 4 or 5 touchdowns in the last 2-3 games. So they found that kind of middle missing piece in the passing game. Not to mention, their defense is on fire. I knew their defense was a good defense. I didn't know it was an elite defense. And that could bode well for the Cowboys in the playoffs. The other Cardinals, I said was going to be the 5 seed. They were. I did say Seattle was going to be the 6. This was kind of a surprise to me. The 49ers were the 6 seed. Seattle was another kind of disappointing season. You got Russell Wilson. You got DK Metcalf. You got Tyler Lockett. You got an incredible run game. I didn't realize how bad that offensive line was going to be, I guess. I didn't see that coming. And the Pete Carroll defense that we've known to come and love just wasn't there this year. And maybe it's because they're getting old. Maybe it's because they lost a lot of people. Maybe the scheme has just been figured out. Whatever it was, Seattle was not nearly the Seattle team that we have come to know and love in recent years. So I was wrong about Seattle. Ended up being the 49ers. I still said 3 teams out of the NFC West were going to make it. 3 teams out of the NFC West made it. I also said that 2 teams out of the NFC East were going to make it. The 2nd and the 7th seed, 2nd team out of the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts. Who knows? He starts one game and then he's hurt. starts one game, and then he's hurt. But it doesn't seem to matter because Gardner Minshew, who knew? Gardner Minshew comes in and he wins 3, 4, 5 games with the Philadelphia Eagles. So there's something in Philly that's working right now. I do believe they go into Tampa Bay and get spanked by the Buccaneers, but the fact that they made the playoffs, I think, is you could probably consider that a success in Philadelphia. So again, in the NFC, you got the Packers at 1, Buccaneers at 2, Cowboys at 3, Rams at 4, Cardinals at 5, Niners at 6, Eagles at 7. That first game between the Rams and the Cardinals, the 4 and the 5 seed for the NFC, that is going to be the interesting game to me, because if one of those two teams does then end up having to go play the Packers, well, it's not going to be really that fair because they're going to be on a short week, and the Packers have had a first-round bye. The NFL putting that Monday game in the playoffs, I think, is probably the stupidest thing you could ever do, because it's clearly a for-profit motive at the expense of product competition. I think it might hurt the Rams. And originally I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl, but I mean, this going to be tough to, even if they win, they might lose to the Cardinals. They split the season with the Cardinals this year. They lost the first matchup, they won the second. Cardinals are playing a little bit better. Hopefully DeAndre Hopkins comes back. They'll be better this third time around. And it's a 50-50 game when you're playing that same team for the third time. Buccaneers are a perfect example of this. Last season, they got swept by New Orleans in the regular season, lost both the home and away games. They then go into New Orleans in the playoffs and totally dominated that game. So don't be surprised if the Cardinals come out and win and knock off my Super Bowl favorites in the first round. But if they have to then go into Green Bay, and which is probably what's going to happen, they have to then go into Green Bay on a short week. That's going to be a tough one for them. And not fair. That could easily be a COVID positive test player playing or not. That could also easily be a guy with a hurt Achilles coming back for that next week or not. Like, the fact that they lose that one day, complete horseshit. And the NFL, we should, and I'm probably not going to, but we should probably not watch that game. And no one should probably go to that game, because that is fucking bullshit. But before I get into a rant on how completely asinine that is, we're going to get into it. So the Titans and the Packers have probably got to be the favorites, but they both made the playoffs. They both won their division, like I said. So I'm going to stick to my initial standing. I'm rolling with the Bills and the Rams. I still think it's going to be a Bills-Rams showdown in LA for Super Bowl 55 or 56, whatever we're on. Although I think I'm going to switch it up, and simply for the fact that I live in Los Angeles right now, so I'd be very excited to see the Rams win. I originally picked the Bills to beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to switch that up. I think I'm going to go Rams over Bills in this year's Super Bowl. I think we're going to have another home team win on their home field in the Super Bowl for the second year in a row. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. Deep down inside, it's probably gonna end up being another Kansas City Tampa Bay matchup here in the Super Bowl for the second year in a row. And I think, it'd be like 4 years in a row that Mahomes and Brady match up in one way, shape, or form. A couple of years ago, it was in the AFC Championship because Brady was still playing for New England. Last year, obviously, it was in the Super Bowl, Chiefs for the Buccaneers. But I'm gonna stick with do a slight change up, but I'm gonna stick with my initial intention. We're gonna change it up from Bills over Rams. We're gonna go Rams over Bills Your Los Angeles Rams are going to be your Super Bowl champions. Matthew Stafford is going to be the Super Bowl MVP. He's going to show everybody why the Lions picked him at number 1. And he's going to finally be able to shrug off that can't beat good teams nonsense, because football is not a one-person game. It's not his fault that he was stuck in Detroit for the first 12 years of his career. I know he's kind of struggled a little bit, but they're looking like they're going to get Cam Akers back. He's going to be a fantastic player. Cooper Kupp was, in my opinion, the regular season MVP, even though it's probably going to go to Aaron Rodgers. Cooper Kupp, I think, was the best player in football this season. And that defense, man, that defense, I know, is let up a few points, but that defense has kept them in games. The biggest thing that I can see with them right now is if they have to go up against a team like the 49ers. And looking at this, I really only see the 49ers. But the Rams play a little bit more of a finesse game than they do a power run game. If they do get matched up with the 49ers somehow, I believe it would have to be the NFC Championship before that actually occurs. But if they have to fight the 49ers in the playoffs, they might go home early for the season. But I don't think any other team in the NFC can muster up that same kind of brutalish intensity that the 49ers can. I do think the 49ers probably beat the Cowboys, just because they do play that physical football game. But if the 49ers do win, I do not see the Eagles beating the Buccaneers. The 49ers would then have to go into Green Bay, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers goes out in Game 1. Now, I do think the LA Rams will go in to Green Bay in the NFC Championship and do beat the Packers. But that's mostly because I believe, one, Matthew Stafford can play in the cold from having his first 12 years in the NFC North and playing the Packers twice a year, specifically in the cold weather. And I think they can, pound for pound, put up as many points as the Green Bay Packers can. I think they're a little bit better matchup than, say, the 49ers and the Packers. But I do see the Rams making it to the Super Bowl to represent the NFC. On the AFC side, like I said, I think this one's open. The Tennessee Titans have that power run game, and if they can get that going, I don't think anybody's going to be able to beat them. But the Chiefs put up way too many points. The Bills, at any given moment, can put up those points. And I think the Titans just don't quite have as much overall experience as the rest of the AFC, and I think that's kind of their downfall in the end. Whereas Buffalo, I think, starting to get a little healthy. They found a run game to complement Josh Allen now, and if you have to go into Buffalo and it's 6 feet of snow on the ground, I mean, the fact that Josh Allen is basically a running back with a quarterback's arm, I think that can help him out a lot. And so, once again, we're just switching up just a tad. Same two teams in the Super Bowl, but I originally picked the Buffalo Bills over the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to switch that up. And you can call this a homer pick if you want because I'm from LA. But I'm going Los Angeles Rams over the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. Either way, let me know what you guys think, how you think it's going to play out. I'm not sure. This is going to be a great season because it's always a great season. Football is one of my favorite sports, probably my favorite sport, and especially easily the best sport to watch because it's you only get the 1 week, my dudes. You got to go in and you got to win your game. There is no, we can lose this one and win the series. None of that nonsense like you have in basketball, hockey, and baseball. That's for the birds, my man. We're talking, can you win today? And that's what makes this game great. But let me know what you think. Hugh, my man, if you're listening to this far, congratulations to your Steelers. I didn't think they were going to make it. Great way to send off Big Ben Roethlisberger, because this is probably going to be his last season. So let me know what you guys think. Who do you have winning the Super Bowl? Game on. Let's see what happens. Either way, that's gonna do it for this one. BigSweetC, that's me. Wishing YouTube, that's you. Wonderful day, night, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it might be. Long as you're watching, I'm wishing you a wonderful watching time. Sweetness, signing off. Peace.